Hello there. We are Duo Demonology, or Demonology, you could say. Yes. My name is Carl Johnson. My friend and colleague James Annitto.
How's everybody doing tonight?
And we have a topic to share with you tonight. We're going to discuss, and we invite your comments, of course, because we don't have a script.
No,
we're just going to discuss this. It is the reality of the demonic realm. Is that something you embrace as reality? Is it a viable concept? That's what we're going to talk about, and we're not purporting to come up with any answers. Just want to hear your feedback on that, and I'll get James' opinion on that, because I don't know everything you think.
Yeah, no, we're very similar in opinions, but
Yeah.
we also have different theories and different outlooks. You know, you've done this for 46 years, I've done this for 15, so you in some way have probably dealt with things that maybe I have not even dealt with yet, or observed something that might have triggered something in you differently than maybe myself.
Well, ditto, because we both had unique experiences in this practice and study of demonology.
Sorry guys, I'm just getting the shit. For some reason it doesn't tag me.
No.
It keeps not tagging
No.
me, so I'm just sharing the video. So
Thank you.
to
Do
throw
what you can there. With
to
it.
throw in for people, if you are watching or listening or
Yeah.
whichever, please share the video.
Yeah, please share it, and we do want your feedback. We welcome it. Now we're talking, as I said, the reality of the demonic realm. Do you even believe that there is such thing as a demon? A wicked spirit. This is the term we use. It's become modernized, ingrained into our common culture now, our modern culture. So I do believe that the demonic realm is real because I've experienced it. Now defining what a demon is, that's more tricky. You know?
Yeah, I definitely believe in it as well, Carl. You know, I think
Yeah.
in my reality it exists, but of course there's other people that perceive reality differently. You know, there's always an answer for why demons don't
Well, we've got
exist.
about 7 billion point 5 different realities on the planet Earth right now, and everybody has their own perception. But in all cultures, there's a belief
of some sort of evil. Yeah.
evil incarnate, evil wicked spirits, and we just happen in our Western culture to refer to these as demons.
And the word, like we talked about our last topic, the word demon really in etymology really falls back, but it's original D-A-I-M-O-N or D-A-E-M-O-N, but D-A-I-M-O-N in Greek, it was basically, in short, meant spirit, but there was no evil to it. It was more benevolence.
No, it took on
the
different
neutrality of it, you know.
It assumed different connotations with the times and changing of cultures
It did.
and priorities of cultures. So it was originally a demon would be, well, it was just, you know, a spirit, that's the name for it, you know. It could have meant the wise or guiding spirit. But also a spirit that was a messenger, an angel could be a messenger. This was a demon would be a spirit that conveyed, you know, human delinquencies, reported on them.
Definitely,
you know.
yeah, especially in Greek mythology.
Yeah.
That's what demons were. They would spy or oversee and look at the humans, and if they were to do something wrong, they would report it back to the gods, and the gods would then shun them. Zeus would throw lightning bolts at people's butts, and they you know, of course, go into a big fireball, right?
So how did demons become so evil? Well, you know, that's been going on for some hundreds of years now, demon being the wicked spirit. But of course, with the advent of the William Peter Blatty novel, The Exorcist, and 2 years later the movie comes out, The Exorcist, widely popular. But that further impressed the concept of what a demon is. That a demon can possess people, can take over people.
Well, I think that the ideology or the theory of demons have, of course, been more prevalent than before The Exorcist came out. You know, you have the Malachite that was written, and then of course you have King James Demonology, which our name is basically off of. So if you think about that, that was 1506, I think.
Yeah, so this has been prevalent for about 500 years now.
Yeah.
I mean, as far as the more modern concept of what a demon is. You know? But do we have any evidence to support this? Some people have experienced the demonic realm up close and personal. In my book with Lana Brock, Shadow Realms, a demonology handbook, that is touched upon. You know, in fact, there's a passage that says up close and personal with a demon. A part of a chapter there deals with that. You know, personal experiences I have had, that my co-author has had, and other people have contributed to that book.
Of course. And of course, talking about your book, I do have another book right here based on the topic. It is Exorcist Explains the Demonic by Father Gabriel Morth, who was the chief exorcist for the Catholic Church for a very long time until his untimely passing. But this also touches upon it from his point of view, the demonic realm, and how it has, of course, come to fruition since the fall of Lucifer.
Right. Now we're talking about theology. Of course, if you don't accept it, it's mythology. But theological interpretation of the demon it is based on belief, some personal testimonies, and sometimes just what they call an influence, where we get influenza from.
Yes.
Influence, ill humors around. That is how demons were referred to. But is there actually practical evidence of demons? Well, some people have that evidence just about every day in their lives, and that's when they come to us and other people who study demonology.
So let me ask you a question. I know questions will be coming, but maybe this will help with some of the questions that people could conceive in their mind. So we're talking about the reality of the demonic realm. To you, what makes it a reality that they truly exist? Is there one point that you can say that the demonic realm exists because of this?
Without being able to define what it is specifically.
Yes.
That it exists, I'm convinced of, because I've seen people in the throes of demonic oppression, and rarely what I would categorize as demonic possession. And also people that just have this shadowy influence in their lives that they can't seem to break away from. Well, again, that's what we're here for, be consulted about that. Do we have a question already?
We don't have any questions yet. I'd just like to let you know that Michelle is watching. Carlos
Michelle.
Santos, Gail Bassett Podgorski is watching also, and I just encourage anyone who has a question to ask it
Yes,
right here,
that's what we're basically
and I will
here for.
relay the message right
We can
away.
keep talking, but your questions.
We know you will.
If we could do like a Facebook Live marathon where we would be in the Guinness World Record, I'm pretty sure if we had
We won't run out of things to say.
enough coffee and chocolate, I'm pretty sure we could talk about the demonic.
We've got both.
Yes, and we do got both, and we just had coffee too, so.
Yeah, now we brought some evidence tonight of the demonic realm. I mean, you have to determine or decide if you believe this is genuine.
Yes.
I can assure you that it is.
And of course, too, in the same aspect of that, it takes time to decipher and assess what a demonic entity is.
Yeah.
So, of course, listen to this even though it is authentic, but that also doesn't mean that you shouldn't, of course, listen to it and then maybe even research it, because once you come across something, and what you've been saying, you don't know exactly by reality what these things are. And that's the greatest thing about reviewing something that you've come across that maybe we would call demonic. But keep reviewing that evidence and decipher those little details, because that's how you come maybe to an understanding of what we actually
Right, and I hope I'm not giving anything away, but the media, popular paranormal, is rife with contrivance. You've got to make up your mind what you're going to believe, because just because it's on a television show or it's in a movie, that sometimes that projected reality, what the reality that's synthesized, becomes more real than what's actual, because people want to believe it so much. You've got to remember that. You're seeing what somebody chooses you to see. You want to take a question first before we get into the evidence?
Yes,
Let's do that.
All right, let me just mention that Brandon Johnson is watching, Eric Carlson, and Keith Deniston. We have a question from Carlos Santos, who asks, do you believe that paranormal research can lead to demonic activity when there wasn't any?
So, say that again, please, sorry.
Do you believe that paranormal research can lead to demonic activity where there wasn't any?
Oh, it depends on how it's approached. That's like, you can't say yes or no. Well, if you have to give one answer, yes. Yes, it can.
Could.
Depends on how it's approached and who's involved. Yes, if you're going to some place where there's a bad influence there, you suspect it's demonic. Because, well, what it's doing is you're cracking open a door to the unknown, really. Yeah, so you entered a whole new territory. And if the people are susceptible, the people who are part of the investigative team are exposed to it, yeah, something could come in. It's just like if you walk out into, you're blindfolded, you walk out to a field or something. You've entered another realm. you probably will be all right. You may trip up. You don't know.
Yeah, and
It's opened up another dimension.
Yeah, and in that same token
More
too
varied.
I've said this over and over again because I truly believe it's a big part of what we do. The laws of intent and laws of attraction.
Laws of attraction.
So if you go into a location that maybe has never had anything quote unquote demonic or evil within the confines of that location, but you go in there with a very bad attitude, a bad mindset, you go in there provoking, you never know what doors you're going to open, what you're going to attract. It could not be something on that location, but something that is evil as what we call a demonic entity could be down the street at 7-Eleven and smell you out.
If you got a box of circuit breakers and you got a power failure, you don't want to call an electrician, you want to get into that on your own, you don't need to call anybody. Now I go back to whenever when you had fuses you would screw in, and I've had the experience where you screw one in and it's wrong, and you bam, and there's a blue spark and everything's dark and you did it.
Then you have to in my house, so I feel
Now, probably it's going to be all right. You just throw the switch, the toggle switch, and you solve the problem. But as soon as you get into that box of circuit breakers, you're in another realm. You're in a different territory. You could get zapped. You could blow the power in the house. You probably won't, but yet you've gotten there. You've entered that new territory. Yeah. If that makes that analogy makes any sense.
But basically what we're saying, anytime that there's research and investigation of the known, it is dangerous because in the same token, you don't know where you're
going to if you take a hike in the woods, you're probably going to be all right.
You could come across a mountain lion. Now, there's always those opportunities where you come across something that something's going to slap you right in the face.
Now, Elise is an avid hiker. Has Elise ever been mauled by a cougar or a catamaran?
Have you?
I have not.
Okay.
I have
that
not.
is good.
I was actually asking her because I don't know. Maybe she hasn't.
Once again, the possibilities are unfortunately always there, and we hope Elise does not ever get mauled by a mountain lion or a cougar.
We're really
like
hoping that.
But the possibilities are.
But every time that girl goes out there, she's opening herself up to a possibility.
Definitely.
There's wildlife out there.
And the same thing, you could be at a baseball stadium and it never happens, but the baseball comes out of nowhere and hits you in the head. Same thing. The percentages of possibilities are always going to be there.
Or a thunderstorm comes up and you're walking and I want to make it you stay in or something. Like you're in a different realm.
Yeah.
So should people stop exploring the paranormal? Absolutely not. It can be approached scientifically,
but be careful.
cautiously, but be careful. Yeah.
I will be careful walking in the woods, and people should be careful investigating the paranormal.
Yes.
I want to say hello to Sheila Oslander, Andrea Vaughn, Dominic Giamacco, Don Labuti, and Greg Duhamel.
Oh, hello guys.
Have all joined us. If you have a question, please write it in, and I will let the gentleman know what it is. I will ask for you.
And please share. Please share. The more shares we get, the more opportunities we have to get more questions.
Now we're talking about something insubstantial when we're talking about demons in the demonic realm. Many people believe in it. If you have a religious faith, you most probably do. But how can you support that objectively, scientifically? It's a very subjective approach to, the unknown, really.
And a very lot of smart people have attempted to put their minds to the paranormal. Thomas Edison with the phone I could speak to today.
Yes, his original spirit box.
Nikola Tesla participated.
Nikola Tesla.
Charles Babbage, the creator of basically computers.
These are people who had a belief in the paranormal. That you can somehow communicate with the dead, or they were very curious about it. Certainly Thomas Edison was working on some device that he could explore that possibility of communicating with the deceased.
It never came to fruition, but
he made some advances, but no, I mean, you can't. Nobody has proved that there was a ghost. I have to my satisfaction, but I don't have empirical evidence that I can lay out for you. I do have some evidence, but are people going to believe it's real? I got nothing to gain.
They're going to have their doubts because there's people out there that just don't want to believe in something that exists beyond the natural.
If you want to believe in it, it's likely you can experience it. If you don't want to believe in it, you're not going to, but we try to achieve a middle ground here.
But it's always interesting.
It's fascinating.
If you don't believe in it, you might never experience it. So that's an interesting thing too. Like, can you close yourself off to that realm?
Well, some people aren't comfortable with it, or they're simply not interested in it.
I've known people where I've been to a location, necessarily maybe not demonic, of course, because it is a very rare situation, But I brought people that I'd call neutralizer.
Neutralizer.
I brought people in.
Oh, I think I know what you're saying.
Yeah, where this person emphatically necessarily doesn't believe it exists. This location has had activity every single time I've went to. A small detail to
And what you're saying is you bring that individual.
Nothing ever happens.
Yeah, they splodge it. It's called splodging,
Yeah.
where they actually negate results.
which is crazy.
So to them, it's not real
Yeah.
because they're not seeing it.
Yeah.
You know.
That's always an interesting
So in their
thing,
world, it just doesn't exist.
It's-
Or if people just aren't interested in it, like more power to you. But
Yeah,
we just happen to be. But there are some people that have kind of a dull fascination with the paranormal, and they can wipe out any kind of results.
So there's also theories on that too.
I've had people like that on a ghost hunt
And
before.
these are psychological theories too. Is that some of the theories that is a lot of it is power suggestion, and if you don't believe in it, you're not given that power suggestion for something to occur.
And if you are one of those people, call us. We'd like to
Yeah.
hear your experiences or lack thereof. Why you don't believe.
Yeah.
Question.
Yes, we do have a question from Keith, but before that, I'd like to say hello to John McNiff and to Tracy Mancini.
Hey, nice.
I know that.
Thanks for joining us.
Hi. Hello, guys. Hello to you
Keith
all.
who?
Keith Deniston
Oh, nice.
asks, what are some of the early signs that are usually seen in demonic possession?
Withdrawal, people becoming antisocial, closing them up. If that is not akin to their personality, or as people know them, they start to become withdrawn. They have a predisposal to seek out negative interests. They're watching shows that are, television shows, reading books that have kind of a negative impact or an undesirable impact. They basically start isolating themselves. Now, the person might be going through a depression. It's all circumstantial. You have to know the person and try to find out what they're dealing with.
And
But
get
if-
proper assessments.
Right, and if somebody's unduly isolating themselves and dropping off from their friends, and it's really inexplicable, maybe they've got something going on that's more than meets the eye. Maybe it's even a little more than just psychological.
And I really,
That's an initial and early sign.
Yeah, and to add a little bit to that, because that was a perfect explanation, is in the same token too. This is a perfect example. I didn't come across it necessarily, but I know people that have. So let's say that this person is dealing with this said entity. They've never done drugs in their life, never touched alcohol in their life. They never did a lot of these things that were negative influences to their body. But after dealing with something like that, or in that process, they went to drugs, they went to alcohol, they started abusing their body, and that personality started changing because of the influence.
Yeah, and it's always important to look into the person's personal history. Have they, at any time or even recently, suffered some kind of trauma, some imbalance in their life, some conflict that has not been resolved?
Which seems to be a big thing.
That can
too.
invite demonic activity, though.
It
It does. That's a manifestation of anxiety and misery. Not everybody who's depressed and anxious is possessed, but sometimes they go in tandem.
I will definitely say on that is that a lot of the cases that I've dealt with possession or even infestation or oppression was a big factor was that there was something that bad happened in their life, and I believe that was the catalyst of. Because you think about it like that, if you deal with something traumatic, like for me, to get personal, like even if they're watching, this
It's
is
making me
something-
think of somebody I know.
But-
I don't want to use her name, but she's been dealing with that.
But traumatic, like when I was a kid, my father left me on the side of the street basically and gave me up. But that was something traumatic. But instead of making me weaker, it made me stronger. Like
It can go either way.
My grandparents took care of me, but in that same token, that traumatic experience could have had a negative impact on that person, and that could have been the stepping stone for something like that to come into their life because they're weakened, they doubt themselves. There's so many ways that traumatic experience could lead to something of influence over them because they are in a weakened state.
Yeah. And you look at, for instance, philanthropist Bruce Wayne, the wealthy Bruce Wayne. Now, as we know, it's all factual, of course. As we know, Bruce Wayne's parents were gunned down by a random thug, Joe Chill. And now, what could have happened? He could have just become a negative. He could have used his wealth to just squander it, travel the world. Hey, my life was shattered. I can do, I have no responsibility to anyone or anything. No, but he became a philanthropist and did a lot of good with his wealth. But he also became the Batman. Yes.
And never killed anybody either. That well, technically never killed anybody.
No, in the early comics they kind of, but then they got away from it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, he didn't immerse himself in negativity. He was traumatized. He had to deal with it. He was compelled to fight criminals. He found a way to channel that and do good with it, and that's why he's larger than life.
But still is considered a vigilante, though.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, no, he really would have been arrested and like put in a mental institution, you know. But no, but the fact that the Legend of the Batman, he devoted himself to doing good, to righting wrongs. That was his mission in life. You know, he channeled that into something. I wouldn't have had that in me.
Yeah.
Because I wouldn't have been a billionaire either, you know. But,
Well, yeah, right. That is a big key difference too.
and yet he doesn't have superpowers.
Yeah, right. We have another question?
We do. First, I'll say hi to John Huntington.
Oh, he probably has a Batman
Hey, sweet
question.
homes.
Yeah.
Father John Huntington.
Father John, yeah. He might have a Batman question. I don't know.
You might.
Adriana Abbott Brown is watching, and also Mandy Patton Connect.
Hi.
Linda Giamacco Travers is watching.
Hello.
Karen Mandeville. Keith says thank you for answering his question.
Definitely.
Adriana asks, what about theories and hauntings in general? Is it purgatory?
Is what purgatory like?
The spirits
are
we
the
deal with.
spirits in purgatory or like issuing from purgatory
That's a good
to the
question.
haunting? That's an idea. That's about a theory.
Yeah.
In fact, you know,
Well, yeah.
tantamount to a theory. Some interpretation of purgatory. I'm not saying according to like standard Catholicism, but maybe they are. Maybe they're stuck in that kind of existence, that twilight existence, where they can't expiate it. They can't really get. Maybe potentially sometime they can, God willing. But maybe the only way they can express themselves is through what we would call a haunting. I think, maybe in an allegorical sense, and maybe in a very real sense, that they are in a kind of purgatory. You know? That what would be the standard interpretation of purgatory? It's a transitional realm where the person has not really been damned
Judged,
to
yeah.
hell, judged, but they are in something. It's something akin to limbo, in that it can be expiated with time, with petitions from the living. According to some.
And they say that
Yeah.
purgatory is a plane of existence of Earth. So that's why we are able to.
Some people feel
experience
this is purgatory,
Oh,
or maybe purgatory is on a level very close to ours, parallel with ours.
Yeah. So we're able to experience.
It's just, it's a word, it's a name for it, but maybe there is a reality, a grim reality behind that.
I've even heard
Behind
theory.
that belief.
I've even heard theories that Earth in itself is hell. You know, but that this is hell. You know, and that we go to a higher place, heaven. So I've even heard those theories. So there's.
Depends on how your week's spent. You know?
Well, no, there are people that are out there that say that hell.
Yeah. Well, it could be, because we have trials and challenges, and we don't know, there seems to be no fairness, no balance, and maybe it is something like that. I think we're Midgard.
Well, even somebody like your brother Keith believes
Higher
that-
level is Asgard.
Somebody like your brother Keith that truly, emphatically believes that everything that you talk to is most likely a demonic entity, because some people don't feel like that spirits can be trapped to this plane of existence.
Well, yeah, according to, Christian Judaic belief that, if they do believe in an afterlife, if the person does believe in an afterlife, it shouldn't be that spirits are trapped on this world. All the dead are awaiting judgment. That's a very strict interpretation. Yet we have them. They're around. So what causes them? Do we know if it's demonic? I don't know. I don't
It's
think
hard,
anybody
yeah.
really knows. But that's a belief that, and that would explain some things. It gives us an answer. I don't know how accurate it is, but that's the idea that all spirit manifestations, especially if they appear as a living person or a beloved pet, and you see its apparition, that maybe that's something demonic.
Is that a hellhound?
Yeah. Well, yeah, they seem pretty hellish.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard of them. My brother, Keith, has witnessed
Some
apparitional canines, 2 spirit dogs. No, he did, and they've been reported there.
Yeah.
This is in West Greenwich, cemetery number 2, and that's one thing that happens there. At least I have seen this place, and it's eerily quiet. We didn't see anything really unusual, but that day. But my brother was there with the late Rosemary Ellen Guiley, and my brother saw 2 dogs, loose. He said, "Why, they being let loose when there's a road nearby?" Turned away to say something to Rosemary, looked again, and those dogs were gone. They couldn't have gotten away. He didn't know if they could have, why would they just suddenly stop barking at that and run off? They would have had to have done that so fast. But then Keith heard that there were these apparitional dogs, the phantom canines were seen there by other people.
Yeah, and before we get off that topic, too, everybody's entitled to their opinion and theories because, like I said, we've said that the paranormal is a plethora of theories and ideas and ideologies and all these things.
But there's one person in our audience, one person. You're not entitled to an opinion. I'm not sure who you are, but you have no opinion. No,
but my point is that, back to the point that everything is demonic in reality, but where I deviate from that ideology is because there's things that I've dealt with, different characteristics and different personalities and explanations for how these things could be involved in the situation.
Yeah.
So to me, that there is enough throughout time, throughout human literature and human religion and beliefs, that there are similar inhuman entities, and there are, of course, are residual and intelligent ones.
Oh yeah, you get all this kind of strata,
But there's all these
we're trying to find explanations for things we really don't know about. But they give us.
But they come
theories.
close,
Yeah. Some of them got to be close to what's real.
Yeah.
Think about. Speaking of that, I have some pieces of evidence I want to share with you quickly. Evidence I can't convince anybody. I'm not trying to, but I can tell you these are genuine.
Yeah.
Can a spirit, especially a demonic spirit, be photographed?
So it's, yeah.
All right, while he gets that picture set, I want to say hello to Neil Caller, to Eric Gerard Scopia, and to Frank Perrin. Hello.
Yeah. Oh, I know. I don't know if that's Scorpio or Scorpire. Could said it either way. Now this is our banner for Panorama Paranormal. Can you see it?
There
Good.
you go.
Okay, now this is, I've got to say it's upsetting. It's upsetting for me to look at. This seems to be demonic. Looks like the Joker.
Keep it.
This was taken at an authentically haunted house in Coventry, Rhode Island. The homeowners were driven out with their children, and eventually they abandoned the home. They were driven out too many times. And the homeowner went back to grab his camera as they were starting up the engine. A figure was at the top of the stairs. I have his voice recorded. And this thing. Well, he saw the male figure standing at the top of the stairs, had the presence of mind to grab his camera and photograph it, not knowing if anything would come out. This is what he captured.
It is intriguing.
Can you see it?
You definitely could see a face.
I don't know what it is. It doesn't look very wholesome.
No, it doesn't.
But I have that on a banner. This is the easiest way to pull it up. But you can see, if you get a clear enough image, you can see eyes, nose, mouth. It's definitely not angelic.
And of course, this banner will be presentable at any of the lectures we speak at, so you'll be able to see it in person if you do come out to see our speak.
Yeah, my website, Demonology Incorporated.
All
So
right.
you can see that. And we have a vocal, if we could get that.
No, we have audio, right?
Yeah, we have an audio.
And if you guys, this is of course one of my favorite. Everybody asks me what my favorite device is. Well, we're playing off of it. It is an analog tape recorder. Can we show the audience, please? There you go, guys. That's an analog tape recorder. To me, it is one of the best ways to catch electronic voice phenomenon.
It works for you. It works for Keith Johnson. This is the latest acquisition of Panorama Paranormal. Took some digging to get that. She found it.
But I do feel like EVPs do come out a little bit more crystal clear.
EVP meaning electronic voice phenomena. These are sounds, and particularly voices, and especially in the context of a paranormal investigation where voices are imprinted in audio recording, and we don't know how that happens, but it does. It's electronic rather than acoustic.
Yeah.
Now, let me just set this up briefly. This was at Kristen Gartland's house. My brother and his wife Sandra of Near New England Anomalies Research were doing an expulsion. They were banishing the demon. You will hear my brother Keith praying in Latin. He's saying, "May the peace of God descend here beyond this house." And he's telling the demonic spirit to depart. They heard this audibly. This was an AVP, audible voice phenomenon. And they heard it, and it came, fortunately, it came out in the recording, because sometimes you can hear a sound,
And it's
a
not
voice, and you don't get it on the recording. Sometimes you just get the recording. This was both. So if we could play that a moment.
You've queued it up?
Okay, yes. Audio is not optimal. Try to hear it. Here's a wail, a howl as the spirit departs. She's driven out. There's some conversation about how he's going to prepare to pray, command the spirit to leave.
And God.
And of course, it's a little fuzzy. Holy blood. Because since we're dealing with analog, you know, we rewound it, we have to get to that part.
In the name of the Father,
Here we go.
and the Son,
My
and
brother
the
Keith
Spirit.
Johnson.
Amen. That mighty and holy angels guard this dwelling in the name of Jesus Christ.
Praying in English and then in Latin.
Pie Jesu, que tollis plata mundi dona es recre. Pie Jesu, que tollis plata mundi dona es recre. August Dei, que tollis plata mundi dona es recre. Sempiternum.
Okay, that was it. I'm sure it wasn't, you know, that clear, but what I heard, I wasn't present for this, but what I hear in the recording is this male voice wailing in despair, as if somebody was plummeting off a precipice. You know, it was being cast out at that moment. I personally know it's genuine because it was Keith. He's just not capable of.
Oh, definitely,
he's
yeah.
not. Even if there was a lot of money in it for him, he wouldn't do it. But
No, yeah,
so
Keith's very...
yeah, and so their friend and client, Kristen Gartland, Keith and Sandra would periodically perform a blessing for Kristen and her husband, especially when they moved into a new apartment or house, and something was cast out. So there you have a couple of pieces of direct evidence. They weren't that clear. You know, if you're in the room and you can see these and listen to that, you know, it's clearer. But these are real. This is what actually transpired. Now, because they're real, they're not the best quality visual, not the best quality audio. But if you can hear them, especially if we're lecturing sometime, Elise and myself, or you and me, then you will be able to hear that. And
I must
see
say that everybody watching did seem to be able to hear that. We got a lot of comments. It sounded clear.
I can't be
Holy
indifferent to
cow!
that.
Wow!
Yeah.
What do I hear? So
I
it
echo
seems-
all of those, because I cannot listen to that and just stay detached from it. It bothers me to hear
Definitely.
that. But it's fascinating.
Especially that it was audible too. That's which is interesting. What's I think to me imperative when it comes to investigating is when you gather what we call for some people evidence, but I call it data because for there to be evidence that means there has to be some fact to what you actually are collecting. But with the data like that, you hear it. But it was also a personal experience where it was audible.
Yeah.
So you caught it.
How
but
rare
they dealt
is
with
that?
it.
I mean,
It's very rare.
this kind of stuff is rare anyway, but to capture that, to be able to record it as well as hear it, otherwise it's just a story to tell.
Yeah, most people only have personal experiences.
Also, my brother, at my request, sent me a picture, a very nice picture, a portrait of him. I wanted to hold that up, and I said, "You want to know what's genuine? This man."
Yeah.
But unfortunately, I deleted that this afternoon. I didn't mean to.
Well, I think also too is maybe Keith will watch this. Maybe
He'll say nobody sent it to me.
I really truly think that if you guys are interested in it, not next Monday, but the following Monday, I think maybe we could have
Bring
Keith
Keith
involved
in.
with
Keith
us.
will be invited.
Trio demonology for the one night.
Well, even though I don't have that picture of the show this time, he's a very handsome guy.
He looks just like you
Thank
in
you.
a weird way. Twins.
I can compliment myself that way. Well, we bear more than a passing resemblance to each other.
Do you have any questions?
We don't have any questions written down, but if you remember, we got some earlier that we were going to
Oh,
use.
yes.
Yes, you
So-
have. I think Miss Elise has a question.
No, this was
Or-
from somebody else.
Somebody else.
Well, do you think about a person who claims to have a demonic experience, claims to be scratched, claims to hear growls, yet seeks paranormal activity, a paranormal location
Well, it's like the old joke.
for
like,
entertainment
yeah.
purposes? Would you say that person really was touched by evil to begin with?
I think any time that somebody jumps to the conclusion of it being demonic right away, there's some intention involved in there, especially if they are imploring to the aspects of the paranormal too, because I've dealt with families that have dealt with true demonic entities, and their last thing they want to do is go out and explore and investigate a location when they're dealing with something very malevolent like that. Because why would you do that? Why would you set yourself up even worse? You're dealing with this affliction or dealing with this situation, but you're willing to go out and investigate. So I think it's very dangerous, but I also feel like anybody that jumps to the conclusion of it being demonic right away, I think there are red flags right there.
Yeah, they're asking about somebody who keeps going back to it, like, they complain about that, they're getting scratched, but they have an interest in the paranormal.
But
they
they
go into these
investigate.
situations. Yeah.
But I think
Well, I've been that person. I've been that person that goes back, and to me, when I get, that's evidence. If I've received an abrasion or something that I can't explain, it's,
But if you're the person that is
that is really suffering
Yeah.
for it, or is getting undesirable results, you got to really be careful of how fascinating it is. It's like the bird and the cobra. The bird is fascinated by the snake, but
Yeah,
how close can it get
I try to tell a lot of people.
before it gets swallowed up?
Yeah, I try to tell a lot of people that are dealing with something like that. And a lot of these people actually do watch the shows, and that's like in my interview process, I asked them, do you read paranormal books, you study the occult, stuff like that. I feel like that if you're dealing with that affliction or dealing with that situation, you should actually kind of pull yourself away.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you let your mind get the best of you in your research. Like you now, like look at people with WebMD. They have the flu or a cold, but they think they're dying because they self-diagnose themselves. And sometimes that can make the situation worse.
Yeah. Hypochondriac, I think it's called. If you're a hypochondriac.
Hypochondriac, yeah.
Just means you're more conscious of your own health and well-being than
Yeah.
some people might be.
But there's hypochondria
And
when it comes to paranormal.
and we're all doing it. We're all like delving into something that's a little incautious to do. But if somebody's really having problems with it, you've got to decide: is it worth it to you?
Yeah. You have to want to be helped.
Now we might have another question that has come in.
I am waiting for one to come up. Adriana asks, do you think some hauntings are human spirits? What are hauntings from?
Interpretive again.
Yeah.
I think they are. I think people during their life project something, and I call it a substrate, that they are embedded into the materials around us, even the ether, the air, the atmosphere. Living people leave impressions, and when they go on, then something remains of them, and then you have your ghost. Yes, I think there are human spirits. I don't think they're all necessarily of demonic origin. I don't know. Maybe they're fooling us. But I think humans can project spirits. I think there are ghosts. Sometimes they're human. If they are demonic, you'll find out soon enough.
And going back to the talk about classification and characteristics, I do fall back on that as well, because a human spirit may be residual. It'd be like an analog tape recorder. It repeats itself over and over again. And then you have the intelligent haunting, where there's some aspect of communication and reply back in an intelligent way. But I also tend to think too, where a lot of people have misconceptions about the word haunting. In the same token, and this is my belief, of course, and this goes, of course, through the word haunting, hauntings occur when the person's haunted in a location. There could be a person that lives at a location, and there's been a known activity to this place, but that person never experiences it because they're not haunted by that location.
Yeah. Okay, the person living there or the person residing there does not experience it, but other people have.
Which goes back to
and like we're talking about as if there are replays and residual atmospheric hauntings. Some ghosts evince a personality. Some of them have some limited capacity for reason. They can interact with us, with the living. What they are, I don't know. We think they're the remnants, the psyche of once living people, once living human beings. But sometimes it really is a ghost.
Yeah.
They can respond to us. They can look at us. I've been fortunate to see a ghost, for lack of a better term, 6 times.
Really?
I've seen a ghost.
I've seen one apparition once, and
It's enough to make an impression, isn't
it is, but it also gives me a lot more questions.
In my experience, they look at it. When you see one that looks like a human being, they look at me with a very static stare or glare. You know, they're almost a furtive look and intense, but they don't blink. But they seem aware of me. And sometimes, well, look at EVP, we got these voices, they're messages, they're coming from something.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can see them.
Yeah.
I wish you could get in a conversation with them. You can get in a limited conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Not advisable, but you don't really get answers you can rely on either.
You have to wonder what you're after, what you're getting.
Unless it's a Ouija board, you know, then a spirit board, then we know it's, of course, it has to be all real.
Oh yeah.
How could it not be?
Yeah.
Well, sometimes we like
It can't just be the hinge for when you're touching the planchette, you know?
Yeah, you know, I happen to know the Ouija board can actually, or you know, spirit board to generalize,
Of course.
can be responsive.
Yeah.
You can't rely on it.
No, you have to be wary of any tool you use.
If it's warning you about something.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like you could be, it's like the same token, you could be good with a hammer, but you can still hit yourself in the finger. You know?
Yeah, I like that.
I
True.
like that analogy.
Got anybody else?
I want to say hello to Arlene Nicholson.
Oh, hi Arlene.
Hi, Arlene. To Daye Cabezas Giamacco.
Uh-huh.
To Paul Giamacco. Good to have you all with us. If you have any questions, please just type them in and I will read them
I
to
heard Eric
the
Scorpio's
gentleman.
out there.
Freddie
I know
Foot
he's-
just joined. Wants to
I
know
know
what's
he's
up,
out there. I
bud.
feel it.
Who is it?
Freddie Foot.
Hey Freddie. Good to see you, bud, or hear from you.
Adriana asks, what do you think about psychics?
Well, you'd asked me that 20 years ago. I'd probably have a different answer. Oh no, some people are genuinely gifted, yes. Psychic, that's,
It's a good one.
depends on the individual, really. Some people, I think, virtually everybody has some psychic ability. They can tap into another level of consciousness and of knowledge.
Sixth sense.
I think people can develop it. I know somebody who's working on developing that through meditation and expanding her horizons and her,
Coming enlightened.
yeah, she's striving toward enlightenment.
I just noticed that we have another feed over here saying who has tuned into a watch party as opposed to who just tuned in on our duo demonology
Oh, nice.
page.
Yeah, you psychics
So I did
totally-
not even
you know,
mention
I like
Tom
to hear from you.
Spitaleri, Richard
Tom
Baracco.
Spitaleri?
Yes, Alyssa Labonte,
Uh-huh.
Sandy O'Brien
Alyssa.
Connors, and there must be more, but my machine won't scroll up.
I'm
So
talking over half the names anyway.
Peggy Winter Stevens just logged on,
Hi.
and let me see. I see a paragraph. I'm wondering if there's a question.
I wish they were all here. Wish we
But
had-
yeah, back to the psychic thing. So you believe in psychics?
Yes. Well, you know, I've had good experiences and not so good experiences. The trouble is, if you want to call it trouble, when somebody has this gift, they tend to feel that their intuition is always the gift coming through. Like I get hunches, you know, visions pop into my mind. I don't always think it's psychic. They are valuable to have as a member of your team. You know, it's hard to be objective and you know, explore your subjective impressions. You know, it's a discipline. Speaking of that, some psychics have trouble blocking out other realities and impressions. You know, they have to learn that, you know, to put up a screen, a psychic screen, so they're not overloaded and receiving too many impressions. I think it's a valuable gift with many people.
I truly believe in it too. You know, I've worked with people that sad to say, but I've tested. I've taken them on locations, never give them the information, but you know, I knew about the backstories.
Yeah.
They were pretty spot on. So I like to see people's.
I have two. I don't want to, you know, judge or condemn somebody if they don't get it right.
But I like to see what people's points of views are. But a funny story, and this is no.
I hope it's a short
This is no slam to psychics, but
Well, I hope
there's-
not. We got some listening in.
in Cranston, Rhode Island, there was this building, and I've never went in there, but there was this psychic reading place, right? And
Almost sounds like a joke you're saying. So I walk into the psychic place, right?
and a day later, I go back and the place is demolished, right? And I was like,
What?
I wonder if they had a psychic impression about that, if they
See
knew
it
that their
coming.
business was gonna get torn down.
And they didn't say anything.
And they didn't
I don't know. They just let it happen.
Sorry,
And-
guys.
Do have a question. Mandy asks, how would you rid someone of a demon if they don't believe in God?
That's a tough one.
Mm.
Why would the person have a demon in the first place? This is a person who is agnostic or atheistic. Yet somebody could conceivably have some demonic influence, you know. Then the psychology comes in, and psychotherapy would come in. You don't, just because that person doesn't believe, doesn't mean you can't pray for them if you are of religious ilk. then you can pray for that person for the expiation, for them to be rid of that. Person doesn't necessarily have to believe themselves. You're praying on their behalf. But it is involved, it's an individual situation. You have to talk to the person, ask them what they are experiencing. Do they want this gone? Do they believe it's a wicked spirit? They may never define it as a demon, but it's something oppressing them. You pray for them, you work with them, you talk about it with them, try to get at the root of what caused this abortion in the first place, and do them some good that way.
And any level of faith is important. It could be faith in something.
I've never heard of an atheistic exorcism.
No,
But you could construct, you could design something to help that person.
But I think also follows the same suit. If like I come across somebody that doesn't believe in Catholicism and Christianity, I will, I will do the best thing that you should do. I will bring somebody in. Like let's say if they're a Buddhist, I'll bring a Buddhist monk in. If they are associated to certain things. But agnostic or atheist, it's tough. Like
Getting away from the religious approach, even you accept the premise that there is an invasive spirit. You may not know what it is. You don't call it a demon. You don't call it a jinn.
Yeah.
But you command it to go away because it's wrong. It has no place there, invading that person's mind. So you command it to leave, and that could possibly succeed because you're recognizing it as an entity.
But what's funny too, I came across somebody.
Without interpretation.
I came across somebody, and this always makes me laugh. I know other people that have come across this as well.
Be ready to laugh.
I did a location where these people were claiming that they were dealing with a demonic entity, but did not believe in religion at all.
All right, that's the case in point. That's what Mandy was talking about.
So, in that token, how would they know they're dealing with a demon if they don't believe in God?
Because the demon and the God, that's an interpretation of this invasive spirit. But what happens?
If you believe it, if you use the word demon, you are emphatically saying that there's a fallen angel in your house. So if you believe that there's a demon in your house, aka a fallen angel.
If you use that demon as a word, though.
Yeah.
I say wicked spirit too.
But in most people's ideologies, a demon is a fallen angel.
Yes, in most people's.
So if you're using that word, it's kind of like an oxymoron.
Yeah.
In a way, how can you believe that there's a demon in your house, but you don't believe in it as in the higher
If
power?
somebody is totally atheistic and doesn't accept the premise of disembodied presences and minds, then that's kind of a conundrum. Yeah. And an oxymoron, because where did it come from? But I think that these things exist. I think they are largely interpreted.
Of course.
And if somebody doesn't believe in God or the devil, they could still suffer.
Some ailment, of
Suffer a
course.
spiritual attack.
Oh, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that if you believe it's something, but you don't believe in that other thing of it.
I think you can still do that person some good. I think you can work with them and command this thing to leave.
Of course.
You're relying on your own inner strength, and if you have a faith, you're relying on. You would be relying on your faith.
You bring
regardless of their absence of faith.
Positivity doesn't always.
Yeah, if I encounter
associate to God, you could be a
sincerely seeking help with this, and they had no religious belief, I would try to help that person.
Of course.
But I would want to know more about them. How did it start? What do they think it is? And then try to throw it out, get it out.
Yeah.
Yes.
I just want to say hello to Stephanie Treadway
Hello, Stephanie.
and to Stephen Pandolfi. And once again, Andrew Richburg is joining us this week. Here's a question that may or may not have to do with the demonic realm. I am wondering, I had played with the Ouija board, nothing happened. When I'm out on cases, I'm good at getting EVPs or spirit box voices. I wonder why the planchette never moves. Do you have a theory?
Ouija boards, spirit boards seem to have a mind of their own. It doesn't make sense, but they do. I used to play on a Ouija board. It was a Ouija board with my sister, and at a certain point we got a hostile spirit come in, and reacted as a hostile spirit, what it was spelling out. And spirit boards did not work for me. He got about 12 years or something, 13 years. They just would not respond to me. And I used to play them all the time. This would not move for me. I would try it. And the planchette did not move for me. Then it came back. Now they do. I have tried it a few times. They don't intimidate me. They're basically a parlor game. Of course, they can, lead to things. I went through that. I never found out why. I never could know why. They stopped working for me and then started again. It was to my surprise. Convinced me all the more that they're genuine. Maybe that was the purpose. But you can get a blockage. We're dealing with the spirit realm. Sometimes they can block the influence of that person.
Yeah, I've never, to be honest with people, I've never did a Ouija board session or a spirit board session. Even.
I did.
I know the basis of it. I know the proper techniques of doing it, but it's just something I've never been interested in. It's not my way of communication. I think a lot of divination tools. There's a lot of physical.
That's just it.
realities
They're
that
tools. They're tools.
Yeah.
You know?
No, there are.
You can say the spirit board, the Ouija board, is a harmless parlor game. It's a parlor game,
Yeah.
yes. You know, as it's all kind of described, would be a pendulum.
Ouija board is because it was kind of novelty company. A spirit board has been around
Yeah.
since ancient
People would
Chinese
just, yeah, they would use a glass.
Yeah,
Even
well,
in the ancient century, you know.
witch's board too
glass.
was prevalent in paganistic belief systems for a long time.
Devices that provide us with a visual, tactile approach to spirit communication.
Yeah.
We've got something physical that helps us along. You're not just waiting for it to hear the spirit. Yes. Yes, question.
So
You're
it's
gonna
just
get a
another
million
form of
word
divination,
answers.
is what you're saying.
Yeah, divination. Well, that we
Seeking answers from the
board.
unknown.
Yeah, spirit board is a divination tool. Yeah.
And it's
All
a
right.
lot more fun to have the board in front of you, or have the pendulum and be able to see something.
Mandy has a follow-up question to her
Yes.
other question. So in other words, it doesn't matter if the vessel believes in God. The demon inside does. So therefore, could they still be helped?
That's our belief. Yes. You can still command that person. You could pray for that person to develop a faith, if that's what you believe that they need. But the demon is a separate entity. The demon believes. The demon believes and trembles. And you command that demon to leave, not to change the person's outlook. You know.
Yeah.
And it is on an individual basis. But it does beg the question, why does the person believe that they have a demon oppressing them if they don't have a religious faith? But of course that's plausible.
It is, but yeah.
A lot of this comes from our subconscious too, and everybody has a subconscious mind.
Angie Hamilton joins us and adds that, in my experience, they tend to work more for people that can be easily manipulated. So, them not responding can actually be a good thing. That's just her comment. She really doesn't have a question.
Oh, all right. Well,
Yeah.
in that case,
It's an interesting comment, yeah.
Well, everybody thinks that a demonic entity does manipulate the weaker targets, but they have been known to actually target some of the stronger targets as well, because it's a kind of like count my chest. I'm going to go after the person that has more faith in God. Like we talked about before, like Padre Pio. He was oppressed most of his life.
His was an ongoing struggle.
Yeah, and
That was Lorraine Warren's saint. Her preferred saint was Padre Pio. Yeah, I actually know people getting back to the spirit board. I know individuals that have spirit boards, Ouija boards, on the walls of their home.
I don't agree with it, but that's my opinion.
Some of my best friends have that, yes. Oh, yeah, it's not necessarily ill-advised.
Some people
They don't have problems with it. The people I know that have that don't have any problems.
Well, to be honest, there was only one case that I've ever done the Ouija board was a part of the puzzle, but that was only one case.
You know,
It was
and
never any case I've ever done the Ouija board was not the reason why the situation was happening. Like I said, one time it was a part of the puzzle, but that's it. So that just shows me something, you know, that it's not always going to bring evil within the realms of your house.
Well, and other friends I have, they have paranormal activity in their home. It's not driving them out. It's just a point of passage. It's there. Why should they have to leave? But it's interesting to witness and to talk about.
You know, and
You know who you are.
And this is not against anybody, but I wholeheartedly disagree with anything being in somebody's house, especially because I always truly believe in that you should separate work and your personal life. And when you bring that kind of stuff into your personal life, you're playing with that.
You are, but some people it doesn't bother.
It does.
It's a
It
point
does.
of fascination.
It's dangerous.
We have somebody has another comment or
I
question.
saved this question for now that we have about 10 minutes left.
All right.
Okay.
Freddie Foot asks, can both of you, each of you, give me your best demonic haunting story?
Ooh, you want to go first?
My demonic haunting story. Well, I can't remember. It was on television. I think it was a haunting.
I don't know if they mean specifically something we've had. What? Tell me.
No, but I was in the case. I was involved. Your brother was involved in it, and Father Bob Bailey was actually
So
involved.
it is a
in
personal experience.
Personal experience. So you can find this on YouTube. I'll post it later if I can find it. But the guy's name was Willie. He was a big Beatles collector. You might actually have heard the story. It is based out of Rhode Island. and I think in Tiverton, maybe. It's been so long, it's a long time. This one followed Bob Bailey was prevalent. But your brother would know this story too with Willie. But basically, I was involved in this house where I brought Father Bob Bailey involved because we truly believe that there was something inhuman there. And basically, I was sitting down with the client.
Yeah.
And this is, of course, a different story. I haven't told this story in a while. But basically, I was sitting down at the table, and I'm wearing my rosaries, of course, because I'm wearing some sort of spiritual protection. And all of a sudden, I'm sitting down, the rosary actually gets severed and drops down to my lap, and everybody notices it. Even Father Bob Bailey notices it. But what the more crazy thing about that story is James Holroyd, which you might actually know James Holroyd. This guy is like 6'5".
Yeah.
And this is actually what's caught on video, and it was on the show Haunting. And basically, it wasn't one of the worst demonic hauntings I've dealt with, but the craziest thing is that this was one of the only cases that I've actually had a visual representation of what was involved. And basically, there's stairs in Willie's house, and there's rooms upstairs, and they have a DVR system set up in this room at the stairway, and of course, James Holroyd's big, but
Yeah, I remember.
yeah. So
Yeah,
basically, on the cameras, you see this tall figure,
Yeah.
taller than James Holroyd, probably 7 feet tall, because you could tell by taking that photo of that snapshot of that video, and saying where James Holroyd would be standing, and you can see it would be dramatically tall by 5 or 6 inches, or even much more. But you see the shadow figure, which I really truly believe what they were dealing with is inhuman. Keith would probably agree with that, as he dealt with that case as well. But you see this figure pop, walk past the camera and the stairs, and then it realizes, it goes back, looks back at the camera, and then disappears.
That's valuable evidence.
It
That
is.
certainly does seem demonic,
Mm.
shadow figure and all. Mine was the case that transpired in Providence, Rhode Island, back in 1980, and that was a young man. His name was Lucas, 14 years of age, and that was full-blown demonic possession in my assessment. Of course, there were psychological elements involved. There always are, but he went through a year of this off and on possession until it got really severe, and I was called in. I was very young and inexperienced, but I could stand my ground with it. And the phenomena, to see what this boy's body went through, being flung out of his bedroom, banging against the walls. He was being tossed around and other things. Phenomenal strength for a slender young boy. And my chair, well, we did an expulsion, not a full exorcism, but an expulsion was arranged, and we were seated around the subject. We set up an altar, clergy was involved. And when the expulsion commenced, it got very eerie and silent in that room. The floor shook like an earth tremor or a truck going by, but it was not that. The floor rattled and shook, then became quiet again. I was in the center of this semicircle. My chair with me in it went back against the wall, all the way back. I mean, I hardly had a chance to reason what was happening to me. And it went back against the wall. Then the boy fell to the floor, went through his gyrations. The next 2 hours were horrendous, but it seemed to be successful. The spirit was driven out. That was, I could talk and do a whole show on that, of course. I have. But that was Lucas. He was better at it. I mean, I don't know his whole history, but I knew for the next several years that ended his problem with spirit oppression. But he was in a formative stage. He was 14 years of age. He was establishing his own character, his own identity. So, there's the psychological and the preternatural.
Yeah, possession's eye-opening, definitely. An infestation like the one I was talking about with Willie, and actually I believe it was Cumberland, Rhode Island.
That sounds very familiar.
But that was an infestation. But seeing the demonic possession, like you did, of course, made it younger.
It's hard to
mind
look at.
blowing.
I mean, you can touch on it a little bit, but to actually see a human being's body being thrown about like that, propelled by an invisible force, is something I could never forget.
definitely.
The memory does not diminish.
It lingers with you.
Yeah, well, it's our time, and so we've done all, yeah, what we got?
I just have a few people that I didn't say hello to.
Oh,
I
oh,
saw
please
that
do.
Lambda
Yeah, I
a
don't
little bit
wanna
later.
sign off without
Mary
saying
Ann
hello.
Accioli and AC, Shelby Salzberg, EJ Train, Susan Giblin, Alex Alisandrados is watching, and so is Jody Nettles.
Thank you for tuning in, appreciate
Yeah,
it.
and shoot out to Jody Nettles. She actually is the SOS Teen Paranormal Camp
Yes.
founder, and we'll be there March 7th at the Lookout House. If you haven't bought your tickets yet, please do so. And that is near Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. That's going to be an awesome, awesome time.
It's gonna be,
It's a lecture and investigation.
It's like something I've never done before, but you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, so how do you get in touch with us? Do Demonology. And, you know, Facebook is a good access to us. Panorama Paranormal, Demonology Incorporated.
JamesAnnitto.com.
Yeah.
And
Rochester.
beside March 7th, don't we have an event this coming weekend?
Yeah, it's coming up. We're going to be in Rochester, New York. That is, I heard that's going to be very well attended.
Yeah, it is, and it's going to be Duo Demonology's first full 1-hour lecture, where we are going to steal the show.
I think they're going to like us. I hope so, yeah. So if you find yourself anywhere near Rochester, you take a wrong turn in Albany.
But it's going to be a fun event. It's Rochester Winter Parafest. That is the full name of the event. It is ran by Ted Van Son, and it's going to be a stellar event, and it helps raise money for veterans.
It's, you know, it is a good cause, yeah. So, I mean, that's what we'll be doing. That's a Duo Demonology venture coming up this coming weekend in Rochester, New York.
But they will be back for next Monday night, and if anybody has any ideas of a topic that they would like the gentleman to cover next Monday, let us know at
suggest
Duo
something,
Demonology on Facebook.
Yeah, because we'll take up, you know, if you suggest a lively topic.
If not, I have an idea.
We'll come up with something. We'll talk to you. Thank you, everybody, for contributing your names and for listening to us this past hour. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you, and see you at Rochester.
Some of you.
Hopefully.